Hello, everybody. So let me quickly share this to everybody. I'm going to talk about the study abroad process to the USA. So if you want to study abroad in the USA, um, you can just come in and start asking your questions, and we'll see what to do. I'll try my best to answer as many as possible, like questions that will come up. So um, let me see. Still waiting for a couple of people to join. Um, so to start with, you can drop your questions in the comments section or the chat box, and I'll read it. I'll read it when the time comes. So there is this timeline that I want to give to people, especially those who want to study abroad. It might be late for some people, but it might not be late for some people as well. Um, I'm coming. And let me try and open it here. I've been getting a lot of comments, and I just want to solve all these things once and for all. So the timeline for graduate school application. So between January and March, like right now, between now and March, between January, this past January and this March, you search for the schools and program of interest, identify fully funded programs and schools or external graduate fellowships. So there's a time that you start looking out for schools that will give you the course that you want to do or you want to pursue in the USA. And not just that, but you also look for schools that will give you like full funding. Full funding, I mean like full funding. And the thing is that in the USA, when we say full funding, it doesn't mean that you are coming in and you're not going to pay anything. There are some other student fees that your scholarship might not cover. When they say full funding here, mostly it's about your tuition fees being covered by your program or whoever is offering the funding. And then also probably a pocket money or like allowance. You understand? So that is what mostly like the full funding is about. So it's about your either your health insurance, your tuition fees, and stipends. These three things constitute full funding. So if you hear someone has full funding or if you've been given full funding by the school, it doesn't mean that you are coming in and all you're coming to do is come in. Sometimes you have to pay for your rent yourself, you have to pay for your insurance yourself, you have to pay for other fees like graduate fees, international student fees, or those kind of things. So these are some petty fees that you might pay on your own. So look out for these things between January and March. So like March is still there, you can still keep on looking for schools. And then between April and June, you start like updating or revamping your resume or your CV. Like the application process is a package. So you are presenting a whole package to them. So you would want to put in like your maximum effort, including your CV. So your CVs most of the time, and I see people like applying to numerous schools with the same type of CV, unless probably you're applying to the same course in every school, then you can use that same CV. But if you are not applying to the same course in every school, then the best thing to do is to tailor your CV um, to fit all these schools that you will be applying to. Okay, so if maybe you're applying to Bowling Green State University, you're applying for masters in public administration, your CV should have certain elements that will fit your masters in public administration. If you're talking about your work experience or stuff like that, you should put in work experience that fits that. Or you're applying to masters in international relations in another school, you should put in experiences or like awards or research or other courses that you did in your undergraduate degree that fits that kind of experience. So try and put in that effort between April and June, working on your CV. April, May, June, working on your CV. And you also check the requirements for your program of interest and work on taking recommendation or recommended exams if necessary. Reach out to faculty working on your research interest. So there are some schools that would need you to write certain exams before they can admit you. Probably they want you to write IELTS, like any other things, like some other schools, like some professional exams. This is the time that you have to do that and get the certificates that they need to in order to be able to apply admit you. Or within this time, especially for the people who want to apply for PhD, this is the time that you start contacting faculty members who work in the research interest that you have in the school that you want to apply to. So you contact them and you how do you call it? Like you contact them, you start communicating with them like back and forth. Some of them will reply, some of them will not reply. It's all good, but you have to do these things. You understand? So I'll come to some of the questions here. Let me move on to the next point. So you talk to faculty members in the school, you talk to the graduate coordinator, you talk to the international body, like you keep on sending emails, even if they don't reply, like send emails to other places. Definitely you might get response from some of them. And that's from April to June. July to September, that is when you narrow your list to 4 to 6 schools based on your choice. So at this point, you cannot be applying to 10 schools. And in the US, most of the schools charge application fees. Even though sometimes you can look out for application fee waivers, you have to narrow it down to like 4 to 6 schools maximum and put in your best effort and best shot into these 4 schools or 6 schools and hope for at least a 70% success rate. Yeah, because if you go and put in 10 applications, trust me, you might get disappointed, especially if the first response that come is negative. Yeah, you might really be disappointed. So please take care of that and make sure that you put in good amount of effort in what you are doing. Let me start with some of the questions. Beto says, Master, how can I change my service number from one school to the other? So you cannot really change your service number from one school to the other. What you can do is that I'm guessing that probably you've already accepted an I-20 from one school, but then you've had a better offer from another school. So you want to change to that school, or you've been refused a visa from one school and then you want to change it to another school. What you have to do is that contact the current I-20 holder, contact the current school that you have the I-20, contact them, tell them that you want to transfer your status to another school so that they cancel your service details in their portal before the other school hands you a new I-20. If you don't do that, the system will detect like 2 schools or 2 information from you, and then when you take it to the visa interview, it creates it becomes a problem. So the first thing to do is to make sure that the first school cancels your I-20 before you move on to the next one. Okay, but I hope that answers your question. The next one, Abigail, is after applying and providing every document, which kind of emails will you submit to the lecturers to establish a rapport with them? For me personally, what I usually did was that I used to send updates to the graduate coordinator about my progress. So okay, so after I submitted, I sent him an email that okay, finally I've been able to submit my application, and I'll be hoping to get a favorable response from them. And since I'm willing and I want to work and learn from the faculty members there, I would be very grateful if they offer me assistantship. So you don't message them and be asking them that I want admission, give me admission, admit me to your program. No, tell them why. Sometimes you can talk about your whole profile. You graduated with a GP of this, and that, and then you want to do this program because blah 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 blah. You have seen so and so person there. So You just give them updates on your progress, and then some of them are really friendly. Like especially my coordinator here, Justin Rex, he was really friendly. He can text you back like when he's in the office, like it can be like a text message. You reply, and then when you reply, he will text you back and stuff like that. So it's about making it a bit cordial and at the same time professional. So they are not your friends. So you don't want to annoy them with too many emails. And sometimes too, you can just ask to like have a Zoom interview with them so that they tell you about the course or program like that. So through that, you can also tell them about your interest and why you want to study a course, and they would have your name somewhere at the back of their minds. You get it? So if they have your name there, like it can, I don't know whether it really affects it or not, but I know that it can affect it in some way. So try and message them professionally, please. Okay, so let's move on to steps. So the July and September, yeah, you narrow down your list to 4 to 6 schools. You look out for application fee waivers, and then draft your application essays. So this is where you draft your SOPs, you draft your writing samples, research interests. It all depends, but then the common one uh, goes that goes to everything, or like almost every school requires is SOP. So SOP, you might write a very good SOP, but sometimes give it to someone else to read. Don't just give it to just any person. At least someone who has gone through the process before, or someone who is going through the process with you. Give it to them to read so that they can point out something. You understand? Because there are a lot of times that I went there and I felt like I wrote it, and then I thought, oh, I've done a really good job. But after I went back and I read it, I realized there was it's very small or slight mistake somewhere that I didn't notice. You get it? So hold on, sorry guys. Yeah, so if you write that SOP, at least give it to 2, 3 people to read it so that they can verify it for you whether everything is okay. Get it? And then I know we all have like different eyesight, different points of views and stuff like that. So if other people read it, they can give you some feedback that will be very valuable to help you in the application process. So try and give your SOPs to people to read and also give you feedback. In my time, I was a bit lucky that I had a cousin who is already a lecturer in a certain school, and he has been on an admissions board before. So he had some pointers, like he was reading my SOPs and pointing out certain things. And then your SOP should be like very brief. Talk about yourself, your history, and then why you want to pursue the program and what the program will do for you. These 4 things: yourself, your history, why you want to pursue the program, and what the program will do for you. And why it should be brief. And then all these things, most of the time, should be connected to the program that you're applying to. That's why I said we don't have like one size fits all. Every program should have a different SOP. And even if it's the same program you're applying to in different schools, the structure may differ. So you should structure your SOP to fit that. Because probably in Bowling Green, we have different specializations. You can specialize in non-profit management, you can specialize in um, government budgeting and public finance or those kind of things. So maybe you want to specialize in non-profit management. You have to tailor your SOP to fit that particular one. I hope you get me. Yeah. So most of the time, that's what you must do. And if you are trying to schedule a Zoom interview with a professor, it's all about the cordiality of the message that you send to them. So probably you just say, "Oh, I saw your profile and I'm really interested in pursuing the master's degree in so and so and so and so. There, I would be grateful if you could set aside some time so that I can speak to you via Zoom or via other channels. Maybe they use other online meeting platforms to do their meetings, so that we can discuss more about my how do you call it my interest in the program. You get it? And yeah, some of them would reply. I think I only got one Zoom interview, and I know a friend who this year got another interview with it, not interview, like a conversation with one professor, and yeah, he got into the program. So try that as well. Let me see this one. Justice Bukabe says, I would want to go to a particular school without funding, but hoping when I get there, I get funding because the available slots is next year, January 2024. I think you followed up with this question. What do you advise? Is taking loan on campus advisable? Going without funding is not a problem to the school. The school that don't have any problem if you're coming without funding. So far as you prove that you can pay for the fees, the problem most of the time lies with the embassy that is supposed to give you the visa. They mostly become like the headache of students because you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt that you can afford your fees, and that's the funding they are giving, the visa they are giving you would not be a route for you to immigrate to the US permanently. So that's where you have to prove. And with the taking of the loans, yeah, I know Empower loans, people use it and then people are able to pay it back. It's not a bad thing. If they approve, you take it and pay for your fees. And there are several avenues that you can use to pay, either staying here to work and then pay back, or start paying when you start getting your stipends as a grad assistant, pay it back. Or when you go back to your home country, you work and pay it back. So it all depends. If you get it, then I 100% recommend that you go for it. Okay. All right. I hope I answered your question too. All right. And the next process that I want to talk about is, yeah, so after from July to September, after you narrow your list down to 4 schools and blah blah blah, October to December, this is the time that you edit your essays, reach out to friends or other scholars to review them for you, polish all your essays and other documents, remind your referees or like people who give you the recommendation letters or your references, give them details about your program, school, and application deadlines, and then submit your application. And the reason why you should submit your application between October and December is because most of the schools have priority deadlines set at the end of December. Just a few of them extend it to January, February, or March. So if you want to be considered for funding or like scholarships, you have to apply within this period between October and December. And that's when like you have a high probability of being considered for funding. Because sometimes if you apply after these deadlines, they don't consider it for funding at all, unless probably they have some more funding left and they don't have anyone to give it to. That's when they might consider you. But when you apply within this period, then you're automatically considered for funding. Yeah, and so sorry, I would recommend that if you want to apply to schools in the USA, do it within this time period. Is the best. Is the best. And then another advantage is that you get your admission decisions very early, and so within that time you can find out like your fate. Because if after January, February, you realize that none of these schools worked, then you can move on to other countries. You can move on to Australia, Canada, UK, Germany, Norway, and other countries. You get it. So it's mostly advisable that you do it quite early within this period, and then you'll be good. And then next year, January to May, prepare for interviews, negotiate your fundings, accept your offer before the deadline for international students, secure your visa appointment date, and apply for your visa. So, after doing all this, by God's grace, you've been admitted to your program. You've been given funding. Some schools you can negotiate and say that, okay, can you give me more funds? Because I think this funding is not quite enough. And guys, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask for more. Sometimes, like some of the funding, if you take it to the interview, it might disturb you, or Like, it can be some way. You understand? So don't be afraid to negotiate for more funding. If they say no, they don't have, that's fine. But if you feel like your funding is not enough, try and ask in a polite way. Let them know that you need it. One, so that you can secure your visa, and two, because you need it. You understand? So there is no problem in doing all these things. And then secondly, this is the time that you start applying for the visa. As a matter of fact, immediately you get your admission. If you are really serious about traveling to the USA as a student, immediately you get your admission. Even if the funding is not in, apply for the I-20, get your service number, and then start applying, booking a visa interview date before you start negotiating for the funding. Because last year in Ghana, it was a disaster getting a visa interview date. So if you are lucky enough to get your admission early, around January, February, March, first thing to do, whether you have funding or not, apply for an I-20. Use the service number to start booking a visa appointment date. You can book an appointment date in May, June, whilst you wait for funding from other schools. So this is when probably you get a different admission from a different school, and then you think the admission or their package is better than the one you currently hold. You change your I-20. You cancel the I-20 from the current school that you have, take the I-20 from a different school, and then go to the interview with it. You just update your details on the CGI portal and then on the Visa DS160 portal, and then you are good to go. Guys, like the visa interview, the appointment date is very, very important, because if you don't get it, you might have to postpone your admission to spring or at another time. So if you have any questions, you can post it in. Not this. These are some of the things I've been feeling so lazy to like record videos and edit them. So I just wanted to come and do this once and for all. So if you have any questions, you can post it in the chat box. Let me see if there is any other point that yeah. So July, September, if you are planning to apply for 2023, like start now. So between July to September, that's when you fly. Yeah. So I hope these pointers are very okay for you guys, and I hope it helps, because I know I've gotten a lot of calls of people like now planning on applying, and it's like it's too late for 2023. You get it? So please, if you want to apply, start looking for the schools now, and then apply next year. Okay, so if there is no further question, I'll end the live here. And if you have a question, you can text me on Instagram. Yeah, and I would reply. My Instagram is Kwesi_live, and I'll respond. Sorry. All right, guys. Have a good evening or afternoon, depending on where you are. And bye bye. Thanks for joining.